Self-Management Fund, Resilience, Recovery and Development. What have we learned? Joanne McCoy, Spike Sech, LGOWIT.
Welcome to this presentation by LGOWIT. I am Joanne McCoy and I am the manager for LGOWIT, and also in this presentation is Spike, who is our e-learning development officer. I want to tell you a little bit about who we are. So let's get on with it together. Our partnership that was formed in 2009 to encourage collaboration between the voluntary and public sector organisations to jointly support people living with long-term conditions to self-manage their condition. The aim of the partnership is to maximise the existing resources owned by the partners and the network to deliver an effective, coordinated and comprehensive approach to self-management across NHS Highland. As you can see, we have many partners which are listed on the slide. HTSI versus Arthritis, Chest, Heart and Stroke, the University of Highlands and Islands, NHS Highland, Connecting Carers and the Highland Council. I just want to give you an idea of what our services are that LGOWIT offer. So pre-COVID we had 24 Living Better groups across the Highland with over 375 people attending them on a monthly basis. We had volunteer-led self-management courses that were in 5-week blocks. Peer-led, again, they were running about 25 a year, again across Highland, so we were covering right across the area. Our Highland Self-Management Forum at that point in time was face-to-face, and we used to get attendance of probably 20 to 30 people to our forums. We had self-management introduction sessions, and we were representing self-management at NHS meetings. During COVID, we managed to switch really quickly to be able to give direct contact to all of our members with weekly phone calls, text messages, emails, and then we developed the services online. So we switched Living Better groups to online. We produced closed Facebook groups, one for our Living Better group members. We've got one for our sound therapy sessions. And again, at that point in time, we launched our e-learning service. This actually benefited us in terms of reach because there was a lot of people who were working and couldn't always get to the peer support group when it was held face-to-face or the training sessions. So we have extended our reach during COVID. We then went on to produce coffee and chat sessions, weekly activities, Tai Chi, mindfulness, and in Kyle we launched a e-bike trial where we had bikes available for people living with long-term conditions. That came in during COVID, so there was a slight switch, and the bikes were initially issued to key workers to enable them to support the community. And again, throughout the pandemic, we've been representing self-management at NHS. So moving forward, now we're looking at a blended approach, so we need to continue our online activities. As I said in the previous slide, we've got a slightly different reach with them, and they're very well supported within our LGOWIT community, and people really enjoy the sessions. So we see them all as continuing with all the online work. In addition to that, we'll be starting to restart the face-to-face peer support groups over the summer, and hopefully get the self-management courses with the volunteers back up to a restart in autumn. We are currently funded by the Alliance for our Living Well Digitally project, which is what we're here to speak to you about today. So the aim of the project is to empower and support people living with long-term conditions to become confident and ready to self-manage their health and well-being digitally, to enable them throughout their own health journey, combating isolation, loneliness and increasing resilience. We're having a look at the COVID lessons that we've learned around technology over the last couple of years, some about equity and services if they're not available, if they're not online, how we're making it equitable for everybody. Digitally confident, how confident are people? The gaps in knowledge and services to be explored, and then we're going to be having a look at solutions and how to streamline some of the services, looking to try and see whether a kind of one-stop area for people accessing place in a trusted spot would be a better idea. We've involved a lot of stakeholders over the last couple of months, so the Senior Citizens Network, MS Society, Liberty Project, Highland Council, NHS Near Me, AbilityNet, Mikey's Line, LGOWIT members, UHI, NHS Highland Public Health and the NHS Highland Tech team.
We were looking to identify the barriers people living with long-term conditions in the Highland face in accessing the internet and technology, and we received lots of interesting comments from the project stakeholders, which was made up of third sector and public sector organisations across the Highlands. So the main barriers that the stakeholder group identified was a general lack of confidence. There was a fear of breaking the internet or appearing silly, which is such a huge barrier for people in getting online. People aren't really explaining why things are changing to older people. For example, banks are telling people to change their way of doing things without offering support. Some people just never be convinced by digital, and I think that sometimes it's okay to admit people aren't sure sometimes whether they're speaking to a human or a robot, and that sense of unease with the internet is something that can be quite hard to change people's minds on. They're struggling to get funding for phones, so funding to supply phones rather than tablets or laptops has been quite scarce, and it's really important that people have a phone, because they've got a very specific value in some life situations where a tablet or a phone can't do other things that a phone might be able to do. Using shared devices, so sharing a phone with somebody else and not having total access can be a huge barrier for people to not go online. If you've got sensitive information on your device, do you really want to be sharing that with somebody else? It's really important that people have their own devices. When technology fails, it puts people off. Organisations which are offering digital alternatives sometimes aren't aware of whether they work or not, as stakeholders have found. And this kind of links on to the next point, which is more staff training is needed for organisations delivering online services so that they're confident and competent to support service users with IT issues encountered during the support sessions. Organisations are offering digital alternatives sometimes without knowing whether or not they work all that well, and staff members sometimes don't have the ability, due to a lack of training, to deal with any problems that might come up during a session, which can really be damaging for people's trust in technology. And sometimes services just aren't well suited to online. Support sessions online, especially around mental health, where so much of the value of the sessions comes through additional communication through body language, which sometimes, online sessions just can't really capture in the same way. So that is a big barrier as well. People are joining online, expecting one thing and not really getting what they wanted out of the experience. And that can just put people off the whole experience. However, the main focus of the project was to look at what potential solutions to these barriers we can explore. And the project stakeholders had the following suggestions. Giving people data with their devices. A lot of the device and data packages that are provided don't really have an adequate amount of data allowance, which is counterproductive in getting people online. It gives people a frustrating experience, which just reinforces any barriers which already existed. Casting devices, which might be an accessible way into embracing digital. Casting devices could be a good way of introducing online services using technology that users are already familiar with. So, for example, using a Fire Stick or a Chromecast just to watch TV or YouTube or anything like that. Just getting people online in a different way. Having more access points, providing more locations such as community hospital, libraries, and GP surgeries where people can access technology. Peer support. Managing expectations and induction, providing reassurance at the beginning and building a real-life human interaction, and nurturing confidence is essential. People are so daunted when they're starting their journey on becoming more online. To be a human presence in the room can really be valuable in helping people learn, and capitalizing on the difference between being told something and experiencing it for yourself is huge. And making test calls routine. running one-to-one and trial sessions, which encourage people to do a test session before the actual appointment. And this needs to include some access to troubleshooting if the technology doesn't work.
With any project, you always find that you have setbacks, and we found that with our Living Well Digitally project. So far, we've had setbacks in recruitment. Initially, a failure to recruit. The advert went out twice. We managed to fill it internally. However, the person moved on and the post became vacant again. Stakeholders, engagement has been tricky with COVID, isolation, annual leave being taken up until the end of March. It's had a big impact on the project. Busy diaries, lots of people really eager to be involved, but it's really hard to get commitment due to COVID and staff shortages. And I know that this has been a problem for quite a lot of the projects. COVID has impacted again on staff recruitment, stakeholder engagement, some of them being absent, and the one-year project feels like a really short time scale just due to all of these conditions. Some of the things that we're trying, we'll talk about after. We've got a couple of animations for you just now. We've been using the animations to make the online learning slightly easier, trying to use a different format, which seems to be a better way of engaging people. Nice short clips with a nice message to them. So we've got a couple of them coming up for you now for information.
Having an online resource covering some of the major issues faced by our patients is fantastic.
Some patients have stated that they don't think they would have got through the lockdown if it wasn't for all the work from LGOWIT. I found that linking with others suffering similar health issues who have some understanding of the problem this brings, whether online or face-to-face, helps to reduce the feeling of isolation.
I would be truly lost without LGOWIT. My illness has taken so much from the person that I was, but LGOWIT has given me hope for the future.
I hope you enjoyed the animations. I always like to link in some of our current work streams with work that we're doing and other projects that we undertake. And some of our current work streams link in really nicely with the Living Well Digitally project. At this moment in time, we're the long COVID support for NHS Highland, and we're starting to deliver monthly sessions with health professionals on specific topics for people recovering from COVID or living with long COVID. We're going to be trialling these on Near Me with the aim that these sessions will make people more comfortable with using the technology, and if they get appointments with consultants and health professionals in the future through Near Me, there won't be as much kind of panic and anxiety attached to using the technology. So we'll be researching this and feeding this back into the Living Well Digitally project. Tech respiratory, we've been working with the pathway redesign for the last 2.5 to 3 years, and at this moment in time we've helped co-design a respiratory hub which is being tested at the moment, and we've recently delivered some learning sessions similar to the ones I just mentioned about long COVID. But these were specifically on respiratory breathing matters, and the first monthly topics have been recorded now and they're going to be available in the hub. So once again we'll be linking learning from this back into the project just to see how it all kind of ties together. Working with the team within the pain management service within NHS Highland, a new approach to persistent pain. So a new bespoke LMS is being set up to deliver a one-stop approach to living with persistent pain. We're hoping that by having a one login, it'll make people more confident to use the site and gain the information that they need. It will contain meet the team, pathways, strategies for self-management, and some useful links. That's a bit of a whistle-stop tour through LGOWIT services that we're currently providing, who we are, our new Living Well Digitally project and our current work streams. Happy to answer any questions. I know that this session is recorded, so if anybody has any questions, please get in touch. We'd be happy to have a chat with you. Thank you.